بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. With regards to selected hadith on Ramadan / fasting, Ramadan and fasting and or fasting, etc. As we have explained in a few lectures before and also earlier today, the difference between the virtues of the month of Ramadan and the virtues of fasting. And one can make a third category and say the virtues of fasting in the month of Ramadan. There are three different concepts which sometimes come together and other times are totally separate. Ramadan as a month, in the daytime when you're fasting, in the nighttime when you're fasting not, in the daytime when a pregnant woman is not fasting or a traveling man is not fasting, there is a virtue of the time. A baby being born in Ramadan, an old person dying in Ramadan. Inshallah ta'ala, there's a virtue with nothing to do with fasting. The young baby, the newborn baby is born, and of course, they're not fasting. They're not mukallaf. That baby is not obliged to fast. And for hypothetical reasons in your wild imagination, if the baby wanted to fast, the fast would be invalid. It would be invalid. It would be invalid. The fast is only obligatory upon someone who's baligh, someone who's of age, someone who's pubescent. And the fast would only be valid, even if it's not obligatory, if they're of the age of tamyiz, 5, 6, 7, or 8, in which they're not in puberty yet, but they're of the age in which they understand what ibadah, what fasting is. So the young child, if they wanted to fast, the fast is invalid, and it's also not obligatory. And an old man who's 80 years old or 90 years old, who cannot fast, it weakens his body, he has to take his insulin, so on and so forth, and he's dying upon his deathbed, he's not fasting in the month of Ramadan. The baby being born, the old person dying, there's a virtue. And that virtue is not connected to fasting directly. Someone who is not fasting in the month of Ramadan, there's a virtue of the time. Someone who's fasting outside of Ramadan, Mondays and Thursdays, the 3 white nights, quote unquote, Ashura, Muharram, whatever the occasion, the fast of Dawood, whatever the occasion may be, fasting because you can't get married, whatever the reason behind you fasting outside of Ramadan, there's a virtue of fasting. There's a virtue of fasting that has nothing to do with Ramadan. That has nothing to do with what? With Ramadan. You understand this? Fasting in Shawwal, fasting in Muharram, fasting in Rajab, fasting in Safar, fasting in Dhul Qa'dah, fasting on Hajj, whatever the situation is, there's a virtue of fasting. And of course, the best combination, the merging point, is when a person fasts in Ramadan. When a person fasts during the month of Ramadan. Whether you have to fast, you're of age, you're sane, of course Muslim, you're not a traveler, you're not fighting in the cause of Allah, you're not sick, you're not ill, you're not breastfeeding or pregnant, it's obligatory to fast. You understand this? The conditions of obligation are there. You have to fast. There's a virtue. And for those who don't have to fast on Ramadan, but they choose to do so, such as an 8-year-old child, a young man, a 9-year-old young woman, such as a person who's traveling. You understand this? A woman who's breastfeeding. And she says, I'm going to fast. I'll eat for suhoor, iftar, I'll stay hydrated, I'll manage my diet, I'll take some pills, I'll take some iron supplements or whatever is needed for my breast milk, and I want to fast. But she doesn't have to fast. So that's the highest level, the top tier, Tier 1, Everyone understand this? It's to fast when? To fast when what? In Ramadan. Regardless whether it is or not. Alright, on this? That's the highest level. The month of Ramadan, the month itself has a what? Virtue. Nothing to do with fasting. That's additional. If someone never fasted a day in Ramadan, there's still what? A virtue. Everyone with me or not? I don't think you guys are with me. I honestly don't. The month of Ramadan in itself. Some of you guys are looking at me like it's the first time you ever heard this in your life. Or I'm speaking some type of magic or sorcery, some type of rhetoric. This is basic, simple knowledge here. The month of Ramadan itself has nothing to do with what? Fasting as a virtue. Ramadan as a month is what? Virtuous. I've proven this. Such as a baby being what? Born. A baby is not what? Fasting. The baby what? Cannot fast, should not fast. Such as, let's say your grandfather who was a mushrik or kafir. He accepted Islam. He's 80. He's not going to fast. The chances of him fasting, being a Muslim, are slim to none. He's sick, he's ill, rather he's on his deathbed, and he accepts Islam. He's never ever going to what? Fast. Him being a Muslim, living and dying in Ramadan is a what? It's a virtue. A breastfeeding woman who is not fasting on the month of Ramadan, the time itself is what? Virtuous. Fadila. It's a virtue, just being alive during Ramadan. Everyone understand this? A Muslim man who's traveling, he does not have to fast. He doesn't want to fast. He holds the view that it's best not to fast on a journey. There's a what? A virtue. For him now, we can agree on this or not. Tayyib? Now, outside of Ramadan, a person is fasting Monday or Thursday. A person is going to fast because they made a vow upon themselves to do what? To fast. A person is fasting because they can't afford to get married and they want to stifle their desires. A person is fasting every other day like Dawood alayhi salam. Whatever the reason behind fasting, there's a what in fasting? A virtue. There's a fadila. Something that's beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regardless of the time. Everybody clear on this? We can agree on this or not? The highest level is when someone does what? Fast in Ramadan. Then the next fork in the road is regardless of the reason behind them fasting. Those who have to fast. Who has to fast in the month of Ramadan? We said a person who's what? First Muslim. Then baligh. They have to be of age. Then aqil. La. Mumayyiz does not have to fast. A child who's 10 or 9 does not what? Have to fast. La. Baligh. The mumayyiz yasih minhu sawm. If he fasts, then it's now what? Valid. It's valid. A 2-year-old who says, I want to fast, it is not written for them to fast. It's not written, it's not valid, it's not accepted for them to fast. They have to be at least of the age of tamyiz. You understand the difference? You have to pay close attention now to the details of the ulama. This is what the ulama say. You understand this? So someone who's of age, they must what? Fast. Someone who's 8 or 7 or 6 can fast. And if they fast, then inshallah, if they do it properly, the fast will be what? No, we never said accepted. SubhanAllah. We never said accepted. We said what? Valid. What is accepted by Allah is known by Azza wa Jal. Everyone understand? Precision. What? We said what? Precision. It's precision. You have to be precise. Accepted is only known by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives us signs. Signs that something was accepted, which we'll perhaps explain later on. What's the sign that your Hajj was accepted? What's the sign that your Salah was accepted? What's the sign that your sa'i, your struggling, your striving and talabul ilm was accepted? There are signs. But we don't truly know except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows what He accepts. The mighty and the most high. Everyone understand this? So a person has to be a Muslim. They have to be of age. They have to be what? Number 3? Sane. They cannot be mad and insane, crazy. After that, they cannot be what? For fasting to be obligatory, they have to be what? Muqim. They cannot be traveling. A traveler can fast if he wants to. But he does what? Does not have to fast. He's done by what? By choice. Everyone understand this? If you're traveling, fasting is not what? It's not obligatory. It's an option. After a person being muqim, they have to be what? Qadir. They have to be salim. They have to have good health. If a sick person who's in the hospital or has a broken leg and he's taking painkillers, I can be patient upon the pain. I'll rough it out. If he wants to fast, the fast is what? Valid. Accepted? No, we never said that it wasn't accepted either. We never said that, did we? We never said that it's rejected by Allah. We just said that what? And after that we said we don't know what's accepted by Allah. But just because we don't say that it's maqbool and Allah doesn't mean that it's what? Marfud. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ultimate respect with Allah. Everyone understand the difference here? وَهَكَذَا. The conditions of fasting being what? Obligatory. And then after that we have conditions of fasting being valid. Asanta. If you do it, it's valid. Even though you don't have to. Everyone understand that? Everybody clear on this or not? So therefore the highest level is when people do what? Fast when? In Ramadan. Regardless of the reason behind them fasting. They have to or they choose to. Everybody got this? Everyone understand this? You have to have this in your head. Categorized, broken down. Everyone understand this or not? Play it. So that's the highest level. That's the highest level. But there is a difference. There are many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ that teaches about the virtue of the month of Ramadan. And there are ahadith of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ that teaches about the virtue of fasting. Nothing to do with Ramadan. Everybody clear on this? And then there are hadith that teaches about the virtue of fasting in Ramadan. Fahimna? Everybody got this or not? Everybody clear on this or not? 100%? Tayyib. So bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that's the topic of tonight's talk. Is selected a hadith on fasting and or Ramadan, give or take. And there are hadiths on each of the three different topics, let alone those that are together. Wadah? Everybody clear on this or not? And this, inshallah ta'ala, it can prevent you from a great deal of confusion. It can prevent you and protect you from a great deal of people who jumble information and throw it together. They mix oranges and apples, as we say in the United States. They mix oranges and apples, two different fruits, different flavors, different tastes, different types of acidity, two different fruits. They don't mix the two together, okay? With regards to what you should and shouldn't be doing during this month. And what you're allowed to do, and what your children are allowed to do during this month. They can do this, they can watch this, they can listen to this, they can enjoy this because they're not fasting. And that's not necessarily what? Correct. Because the daytime and the nighttime is supposed to be what? Virtuous and sacred. Everyone understand this? Or a person is fasting outside of Ramadan and they become lazy and lethargic and they do this and they fall into that and they're lax and they say it's what? It's not Ramadan. That's also a mistake. Everybody understand this? And then we have the highest level of fasting in Ramadan, and we have those who cannot fast in the month of Ramadan. And that doesn't mean that they can sit and listen to whatever they want to listen to, and watch whatever they want to watch, and do what they want to do just because she's on her mints. No, you're still a worshiper of Allah, even though you're not fasting. Certain things are heightened and amplified, worse for you to do in this month, even though you're not making salah and you're not fasting. And this can only be done by understanding the what? The bracket that I just gave you. Everyone understand this? Is that Ramadan is virtuous and sacred. Fasting outside of Ramadan is virtuous and sacred. Fasting inside of Ramadan is virtuous and sacred. Rather, it's the most sacred and the most virtuous. It can save you from a lot of problems with yourself and with others. What you're allowed to do. Can I feed food to non-Muslims? We asked this question earlier. Last night we were asked this question, all right? Can I feed food to non-Muslims in Ramadan? They're not fasting, but it's still the month of Ramadan. وهكذا. So with that being said, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, these selected ahadith is two ways of looking at it and two ways of discussing it. First and foremost is one of the problems that we had in the College of Hadith and Kulliyat al-Hadith with regards to the different types of teachers. There were two types of teachers in the College of Hadith. The first type of teacher or instructor, and obviously we're only talking about that which we call fiqh al-hadith or madat al-hadith. Back in the day it was Nail al-Awtar, and then it turned into al-Muharrar of Ibn Abdul Hadi. So fiqh al-hadith is considered to be the main subject in the college of hadith, along with al-mustalah. But fiqh al-hadith you study from mustawa number 1 to the last. All 8 semesters you take fiqh al-hadith, and you don't have al-mustalah all 8 semesters. So fiqh al-hadith is considered to be the bread and the butter, the steak and the potatoes of kulliyat al-hadith. Right? Understand this? That's your mainstay. That is the thing in which you to put the most attention, time, and effort in. And if you left the college with only mastering that subject, it wouldn't be a what? He said, a wasted life. It wouldn't be a what? It wouldn't be a wasted life. So fiqh al-hadith is basically the memorization of hundreds, if not thousands of hadiths, explaining those hadiths, having those hadiths explained to you, knowing the gharib, the vocabulary from the hadith, knowing the dilalat of the ahadith, knowing ma yustanbatu wa yustafadu min hadith, what's benefited therefrom, and knowing the masail of the ulama, that which they agree upon and that which they differed on with regards to these fiqh issues. Buying and selling, marriage and divorce, wiping over the khimar, wiping over the khuffain, whatever the issue is. Is it permissible for me to shave my mustache? Can I shave my mustache? Or is that haram? And I'm only allowed to trim the mustache. Can I have a thick mustache, but make sure that the hair is above my lip? Which is correct? And this is also a dawah issue that we have. You see a brother come in the masjid, he has a full beard, or his beard is trimmed by the fist, and a shaved mustache, you automatically think something. You think that he's from what? Jama'at Tabligh. This is the reality. First thing you think, whether he's wearing a turban or not, you're going to say he's Hanafi, and he's Jama'at Tabligh. And of course, everything that the Hanafis do and say is batil, is bid'ah, is wrong, etc. The stereotype of many ignorant people. I mean, understand this? So certain countries and certain madhabs, they shave the mustache. 100% off, it's shaving. And there are other ulama and other madhabs who say that that's muthla. Kama ruwiya an Malik. It said that's a means of what? For a person to shave his mustache 100%, it says mutilation. And it cannot be done. Rather, the mustache is only to be what? Trimmed. So one hadith, the hadith says, ahfu shawarib. What's meant by the hadith? Ahfu shawarib. Ish ma'ana ihfa? Juzzu shawarib. One narration says, man lam ya'khudh min sharibihi falaysa minna. A third hadith says, he who takes not from his mustache isn't from us. So you in the college of hadith, you have to memorize the narration. An Abi Hurairah, An Ibn Umar, kada 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 qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then you have to know what's the meaning of the word ihfa. That's one of the questions on the exam. Ma ma'ana qawlihi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ahfu shawarib. And you have to write al-ihfa'u fi al-lugha huwa kada 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 kada. Mada yustafadu min al-hadith. What is benefited from this hadith? What rulings do we take from this hadith? Al-hadith yadullu ala mashru'iyyati kada kada kada. Al-hadith yadullu ala wujub kada kada kada. Al-hadith yadullu ala tahrim kada kada kada. And last but not least, the Shaykh will ask you in a question, Udhkur, what is the issue of fiqh over which the ulama say regarding this hadith? And then you have to mention, Al-ulama اختلفوا في هذه المسألة على ثلاثة أقوال. القول الأول أنه يجب إحفاء الشارب وبه قال مالك واستدل بهذا الحديث. القول الثاني, that it's impermissible to shave the mustache, واستدل كذا 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 كذا. القول الثالث, trimming it, shaving it, keeping it above your lip, kulluhu jaiz. It's all permissible. And they use this proof, they use that dalil, and then you give what you feel is the what? The rajih. The qawl al-rajih. The strongest view based off of what you feel, if the teacher gives you that liberty, or the teacher demands the qawl al-rajih based off of what he believes is the qawl al-rajih. So this is what you're going to study for 4 years. And this is going to be your bread and your butter. Obviously, from this brief, quick, simple example that I'm giving you, you can see the richness of Qur'an al Hadith. And how when you leave that college, you're going to be a walking, talking machine of ilm. And what you know what the Prophet said, what it means, what the ulama agree upon, what they're different on, and you have the ability to make ijtihad and nazar, and look into the books and come out with a conclusion. That's why according to Hadith, of course, is the best college. Everyone understand this? Al-Muhim, the point I'm trying to make is that in this college, and alhamdulillah, I can say this out of pride and boasting and bragging about Allah's favor and Allah's blessing upon me. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. What did Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam say? We did a talk about Sulaiman in this Masjid last time, right? هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي. He says, this is from my Lord's bounty. لِيَبْلُوَنِي. For him to test me. أَأَشْكُرُ أَنْ أَكْفُرُ. Will I be grateful or will I be ungrateful? Everyone understand this? What did he say when he saw the what? What happens? He says, فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهَا. He smiled and he laughed when he heard the ants talking. And what did he say? وَقَالَ رَبِّي أَوْزِئْنِي. He says, and oh Allah, allow me to be thankful to the blessing that you have given me and my father. And allow me to do righteous deeds which you will be pleased with. And put me among the righteous. وَأَدْخِلْنِي. Put me among what? The righteous. So it's permissible, rather recommended, and oftentimes obligatory to brag about Allah's blessing upon you. Don't brag about what you did and what you think, but what Allah gave you. So according to Hadith, it changed my life eternally. Once you go into that college and you come out of that college, you'll never ever be the same. And you won't look at life the same from the level of training that you receive in that college. And that's just a small, quick, simple what? Example of the systematic mind that you're given in that college. So the teachers, they had two main madhabs. And this is the point I'm trying to get to with regards to tonight's lecture. Two madhabs. Madhab al-awwal nur was what? Were the mashayikh, the doctors, the professors that wanted to cover the entire curriculum. They wanted to cover the entire curriculum. So let's say, for example, there are 300 hadiths, or 250 hadiths, or 350 hadiths. Al-Muhim, from this bab to that bab, which is Mustawa al-Awwal, the first semester. The first semester. It is his job to explain 250 hadiths to you. And for you to memorize 250 hadiths, if you know the level of authenticity, who collected those hadiths, and you have to be able to give anything and everything about those 250 hadiths for the exam to pass the mark. So this madhab is that we're going to cover each and every hadith. And obviously, if the semester is only 3 months or 3.5 months, and it's only one class a day, 5 days a week, or even 4 days a week, whatever the case may be, it's a big chance that you don't have the ability to explain all 250 hadiths in a thorough way, in a detailed way. Time is short, the hadiths are many, and also we're not talking about the supporting hadiths, they're just the hadiths in the book. If there are 250 hadiths in the book to memorize, you're going to easily memorize, Allahu Alam, 1,000 hadiths for the supporting evidences for those hadiths. Everyone understand this? So we have students from all around the world. He's from Belgium. He studied in the language program. Just 2 years ago, he didn't know Arabic, let alone fiqh and tafsir and aqidah. He was a Christian in Belgium. Or he was a fasiq. His parents come from Morocco. He didn't pray, he didn't do anything. He was drinking and smoking, had a girlfriend. He accepted Islam and he went to Jamia Islamiyah. And he learned the Arabic language, walillahi alhamd. He's in the College of Hadith. And next to him is a brother who comes from Kuwait, who was born speaking Arabic, whose father is a scholar in Kuwait. He's studying and reading Fath al-Bari and Tamheed all day and all night. And the brother from Belgium was just what? 2 years ago, drinking and smoking. And there's a third brother who comes from Ghana. He knows Arabic, not like the brother from Kuwait. He comes from a village, a country of ilm as well, but obviously it's going to be a bit different than Kuwait. And then there's a fourth brother from Egypt. And there's a person from Canada, a person from America, and this brother and that brother. So there are different levels of students. There are different levels of the ilm and understanding of Arabic. So the teacher can't go at one speed because the slow people are going to be left behind. And if he goes too slow, the advanced people won't benefit and it'll be a waste of their time. So it's a challenge now. So he says, I'm going to cover all 250 hadith, even if it means namur alayha mururan. We just pass by them. Al-hadith yadullu ala kada wa qala bihi shafi'i dara bas. Al-hadith al-thani. Al-hadith alladhi ba'du. Next hadith. To cover all 250. And the second madhab was the madhab of those ulama who said it is better, it's more beneficial, and it's more fruitful for the students for me to cover only 50 hadiths in a thorough and extensive, exhaustive manner. And the other 200 that I didn't explain, they'll have the ability to read and study themselves. But at least you got 50 of them with a sharh that's muwassa'. It's in detail. All of the different fiqh and the lugha and the gharib and the masail fiqhiyah and everything I've given to you in detail. قال ابن عبد البر قال في طرح التثريب قال الشوكاني قال النووي قال القرطبي قال فلان وكذا 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 وأخرجه ابن أبي شيبة وأخرجه ابن فلان 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 فلان. Everyone understand this? Or 75 hadiths or 100 hadiths. So the different teachers, they had different ways of looking at it. Should we just move forward and mention as many hadiths and explain as many hadiths as possible? Or should we take our time and do what? Everyone understand this? So the concept of quantity versus what? Quality. You can have 5 slices of white bread or 2 slices of wheat bread. Everyone understand this? At the end of the day, it's going to be a similar fill. 5 slices of white bread, 2 slices of wheat bread, or 1 slice of 8-grain bread. It's hearty bread. Everyone understand this? It's not cake. Everyone understand this or not? You have to pick and you have to choose. So the teachers, they differ on which style they consider to be the what? The best style. So bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to do the second madhab. We're not going to just mention this hadith and that hadith and this hadith. We're not going to mention hadiths on Ramadan and fasting. Rather, we're going to take the study of one hadith. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll take the study of this hadith bit tafsir, in detail. Everyone understand this? And thorough what? Dissecting it and breaking it down piece by piece. Everyone understand this or not? And of course, there's a benefit in mentioning 10 hadiths in one sitting with simple explanation, if any explanation at all. And there's also a harm in that, quote unquote. Nisbiyan yani. There's no harm in the sunnah. I'm talking about the harm in that tariqah of just mentioning 100 hadiths in a sitting, or brothers that do it in a khutbah. This hadith, that hadith, over. Sometimes that's not as good as mentioning one hadith and focusing on it. Because you can hear the hadiths, but when you leave the masjid, how many of those hadiths do you understand properly? The fiqh of the hadith, the true understanding, what the Prophet meant by that. Sometimes it's more wholesome for you to have that 1 slice of 8-grain bread instead of having 5 pieces of what? Bleached flour or white bread. Are we understand this? Khairan, inshallah. So we're clear? We have to speak, guys? Tayyib, are you with me? Tayyib. And we're going to read, inshallah ta'ala, from one of my favorite books, from another favorite book. First favorite book is what? Sahih Bukhari, without a question. And the second favorite book will be what? Fathul Bari. Ahsant. Jazakallahu khairan. Everybody clear on this? طيب. قال الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى باب حدثنا عبدان قال أخبرنا عبد الله قال أخبرنا يونس عن الزهري وحدثنا بشر بن محمد قال أخبرنا عبد الله قال أخبرنا يونس ومعمر عن الزهري نحوه قال أخبرني عبيد الله بن عبد الله عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود الناس وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان حين يلقاه جبريل وكان يلقاه في كل ليلة من رمضان فيدارسه القرآن فلرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود بالخير من الريح المرسلة. خيرا إن شاء الله. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he says, listen carefully, Imam al-Bukhari, he says, حدثنا عبدان. Abdan told us that Abdullah told him, that Yunus told him, on the authority of Zuhri. And we've also reported, that's the isnad number 1. Isnad number 2, like a train. The train tracks what? It branches off to another direction. And that's what that ha is, litahweel. Obviously we have to give fawaid and benefits to tulab al-ilm, which are what? A few notches above. Our classes are not just iman boosters and reminders. Nor are our classes extremely technical for those who are above. It's a mixture. Everyone understand this? Everyone will get something and you'll go home with something. Everyone, be the night if you want to. And obviously there has to be certain spice for what? Certain folks. Everyone understand this? So those who have studied ilm al-mustalah or taqrij, hopefully you can understand and appreciate and value this ilm that we're giving you. So Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he says ha, the letter ha, and that's bima'na at-tahwila. He's going to another isnad. Imam al-Bukhari says, وَحَدَّثَنَا Bishr ibn Muhammad. Bishr ibn Muhammad related to us. Next sentence, or part of the same sentence, حِينَ يَلْقَاهُ جِبْرِيلٌ. He was the most generous in Ramadan when Jibreel would what? Come and meet with him. Come and sit with him. Kama. وَكَانَ يَلْقَاهُ فِي كُلِّ لَيْلَةٍ مِّن رَمَضَانٍ. And Jibreel would meet the Messenger of Allah ﷺ every night during Ramadan. Every Ramadan, every night. Jibreel will come and teach him the Quran. It says, فَيُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. And he would study and review with the Prophet ﷺ the Quran. He would teach him, and then he would come back and revise with him. Everyone understand this? Comma. Last sentence in the hadith, فَلَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ أَجْوَدُ بِالْخَيْرِ مِنَ الرِّيحِ الْمُرْسَلَةِ. And because of that, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ's generosity, it was so enveloping as if it was a cool, calm breeze. Everyone felt his generosity after he encountered Jibreel and learned and studied the Quran. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ's generosity was more outstretching in general than what? Rih al-Mursala, than a cool wind that touches and reaches what? Everyone. Everything outside is going to get touched by the wind. There is no, the wind touches this and avoids that. Everyone is touched by the wind. That was the example of the Prophet's what? His generosity during the month of Ramadan. Everyone understand this? So let's break this hadith down and let's study it systematically. First and foremost, we're reading Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari belongs to what genre of hadith books?
Sahih.
As-Sihah, okay, or Al-Jawami'. Al-Jawami'. Al-Jami' / Sahih. Al-Jami' Sahih. And we know what the different genres of hadith books are. There's Sunnah, there's Masanid, Mustakhrajat, there's a Mustadrak, there's Atraf, there's etc. They have the Sihah / Jawami' genre. Moving forward. So due to the fact that it's a Sahih, it means that Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah believes and feels that this hadith is 101% absolutely what? Genuine. According to Bukhari rahimahullah. Or as he mentioned, full isnad. Secondly, because of the type of hadith book it is, the genre, we believe that this hadith has a what? A specific what? Purpose. He's using this hadith for a specific fiqh issue. An issue of tafsir, an issue of aqeedah, whatever it is. He wants to deduce and extract something from this hadith. Everyone understand this? And it's not just a collection of hadith and which you're left to extract and to use. No, he's showing you that this hadith proves something what? Specific. It proves something what? Specific. So what chapter do you think this hadith is in? Not Abu Isa. First chapter. You think that or you know that? You know it. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, which is a good thing. That's a good thing that you know. You're familiar with Bukhari, but that's not what I want right now. I want the cup to be empty. Okay, since you know that it's in the first chapter, Bad'ul Wahi, the beginning of Revelation, what other chapters could this hadith possibly be in? Charity. Kitab of Sadaqah. Good answer. This hadith could be put in the chapter of what? Charity. Encouraging the people to do what? Give charity. Be charitable. Very good. It could be in Kitab, Zakah, Sadaqah, etc. Very good answer. What else? What else could this hadith be used? What other chapter could it be used in?
In Ramadan.
Kitab of Siyam. Kitab of Sawm. Under which subchapter?
Giving charity. Giving
charity in Ramadan. Right. Okay, what else? Where else could this hadith be collected? In Bukhari's book. That is for sure. It's in the book of Badr al-Wahi, of Revelation. That's for sure. Where else could it be? Can I give an answer to help you guys out? How about Kitab al-Ilm? The book of knowledge. Mathalan, the etiquette of sitting with your teacher. Al-Mudarasa. Akhdh al-Quran min afwah al-mashayikh. Taking the Quran from the mouths of Quran teachers. What other chapter could it be collected in? Bismillah. Don't be afraid.
أن الأعمال من الإيمان.
أن الأعمال من الإيمان. طيب. يعني في كتاب الإيمان. طيب. Good answer. What else? Where else could this be collected? وهكذا. It could be in different chapters in which Bukhari is using a specific piece of the hadith. Everyone clear on this or not? As far as Imam Muslim, rahimahullah, he's going to collect this hadith and he's going to put it in what? How many places out of mean? One place. And he's going to put it in the most appropriate place that he feels. And you don't have to be scattered looking for the hadith in Sahih Muslim. Unlike Sahih what? Al-Bukhari. So that's first and foremost, is where is this hadith collected? Here we have Bad'ul Wahi, the beginning of revelation. And there's no subchapter, it just says Bab in this nuskha. How does this hadith pertain to the beginning of revelation?
Jibreel alayhi salam came to him.
Jibreel came to the Prophet with what?
The Quran.
With revelation. That the revelation began in the month of? Is that correct? Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Was that in Ramadan? Watch out for tricks. I want you. Tricks make you smarter. You gotta be on point, right? Was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq in Ramadan or not? It was during Ramadan. Everyone understand the question? Was that in the month of Ramadan or not?
Yes.
Say yes. Who should say Nur? It wasn't. Or are you unsure? It wasn't in Ramadan. So this hadith means, hypothetically speaking, that was when the revelation, that was the first piece of revelation that he received. And after that, Jibreel will come and teach him when? Only in Ramadan? Or that was the revision in the study session? Understand the trick? There's another trick. Listen carefully. Jibreel will come to the Prophet on when? During when? During when? Ramadan. It doesn't state, nor does it mean that was the only time when the revelation was given. But that's when people come and study with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, all of what was sent down. Every year until the end. You understand the difference? Every year until when? Until the end. Everyone understand this? Every year until the end. Clear this or not? So the connection between the hadith and between the kitab is there. Al-munasaba. Bain al-hadith, wa bain al-bab, wa bain al-kitab. Obviously there's no bab here. So they're going to have the munasaba bain al-hadith wa bain al-ish al-kitab. And that's very important when it comes to the detailed study of the books of hadith. Is that there has to be a connection and an appropriate relative nature between the hadith quoted in the chapter and the chapter quoted in the book. Everyone understand this? Right, moving forward. Now we said it was going to be a detailed study. It's not going to be quoting this hadith, quoting, we said it's going to be what? A detailed dissection of this one hadith from Imam al-Bukhari's book. Right, let's move forward. Now we have first and foremost the isnad. The rijalul isnad, the men. Narrator number one is who? He says, Hadathana Abdan. Who is Abdan? The teacher of Imam al-Bukhari. So, hypothetically speaking, who's Abdan and who's Bukhari right now in this masjid? I'm Abdan. Gotta think quick, guys. Gotta be quick. And he's Bukhari. Whether he wrote down what I said or whether he memorized it by heart. So Imam al-Bukhari says, Haddathana Abdan. Meaning that Bukhari was sitting in the company of other students. That's why he said Haddathana. Everyone understand this? He said what? Abdan told us. Hypothetically speaking, if Bukhari says Haddathani, it would just be him and Abdan. Clear on this or not? So what's Abdan's name? We'll get there. We'll get there what his name is. So I'm Abdan and I'm telling you hadiths. And you say, report it to us, Abdan. And what did Abdan say? Abdan's teacher is who? Huh? Says here, next narration, Qala. He said, Akhbarana Abdullah. Abdullah is the teacher of Abdan. I'm telling you what my professor from Medina told us. Clear on that? Clear on this? What did my teacher from Medina say? Number 3, Qala, he said, Akhbarana Yunus. Yunus told him, my teacher's teacher. Right, clear on this or not? Then Yunus, he got the narration, or my teacher's teacher got the narration from who? It says here, An Zuhri, from a man whose name is Az-Zuhri. A man whose name is what? Az-Zuhri. Everybody clear on that? So how many people in the chain of narration so far? Number 1, Abdan. Number 2, Abdullah. Number 3, Yunus. Number 4, Zuhri. And the chain of narration is not done yet. We didn't get to Ibn Abbas to the Prophet ﷺ yet. Clear or not? Then Imam al-Bukhari, he said what after that? Ha. Meaning that he switched it. Then he goes to another isnad. And his teacher, his name is what? Bishr ibn Muhammad. Hassan. Bishr ibn Muhammad narrated from Abdullah. Who narrated from? Yunus. What? Haha. Gotta get the hip together, Yaqi. Yunus wa Ma'mar. 2 people told?
Yunus.
1. 2 told what? 1. Clearness or not? Tayyib. Then Az-Zuhri rahimahullah, he's the final one. He got the report from who? Qala akhbarani Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah. Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah. Zuhri is a tabi'i who's narrating from another tabi'i. Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah narrated from Ibn Abbas. Chain of narration is over. So to keep things simple, the isnad has how many people? Abdan, Abdullah, Yunus, Zuhri. Number 5, Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah. Number 6, Ibn Abbas. So this is what we call ilm hadith, isnad. This is considered what? This is it's tight. Al-Muhim, this is a long chain in Imam al-Bukhari's book. The average number of narrators in Bukhari's book on average hadith is 4. Roughly. If Imam al-Bukhari has 3, then that's isnad ali, jiddan. And there are several ahadith thulathiyya in Sahih Bukhari. But 4 is a good number for Bukhari. 5, 6 is a bit long. You read Sunnah al-Nasa'i, exact opposite. 6, 5 is the asl with Nasa'i. Everyone understand this? Imam Ahmad has over 300 hadiths which are thulathiyat. So we have 6 people between Bukhari and between the Messenger of Allah. Everybody clear on this or not? Tayyib. Now let's break down this chain of narration. It says, Hadathana Abdan. His name is Abdan. That word or that name Abdan is relatively what? What is it relatively? It's what? No. No, it's not common at all. Abadan. No way. Abdan is relatively what? Unique. How many narrators have you heard the name Abdan? How many times have you heard that name? Abu Isa. If it was Abdullah, that's what? Common. Muhammad. Abdurrahim. Hisham. It's extremely what? Common. Abdan is what? It's rare. It's a rare name. Everyone understand this? There's a possibility, I'm not saying that it is, but there's a possibility. It's the only narrator in Kutub al-Sittah with that name. Mathalan. And there are other names which are rare, such as Qutayba. It's not a common name at all. How many people name Hisham or Sa'd? Everyone understand this? Hundreds and hundreds of narrators with that name. Ibrahim, Ismail. Everyone understand this? Isa even. Everyone understand this? So Abdan is a rare name. So his name is what? It says here, وَهُوَ Abdullah ibn Uthman al-Marwazi. His actual name is what? Abdullah. Abdan is the laqab. Abdullah ibn Uthman, and he comes from the country or the region of? From Persia, what was called Persia of the past. That's a broad region. Iran, Afghanistan, that area. He's Marwazi. And he is the student of the famous Abdullah who was? Ahsant, Ibn al-Mubarak. The famous Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak was his teacher. Abdullah ibn Mubarak narrated from Yunus. Yunus is a common name or uncommon name? Relatively common. His name is Yunus ibn Yazid al-Aili. Yunus ibn Yazid al-Aili. And he was the student of? Abdullah. This is one chain of narration we can't memorize, guys. Az-Zuhri, exactly. Az-Zuhri. Who's Zuhri? What's his name? Who's Zuhri? Muhammad ibn Shihab. Tayyib. Give or take the details of his name. Az-Zuhri, right? And Az-Zuhri narrates from Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Utbah. Ubaydullah is the student of, he's the disciple of who, Abu Isa? You're Googling. He's the disciple of who? Of Ibn Ibn Abbas. Al-Isnad is over. The chain of narration is done, the first one. Everyone understand this? The addition to the second one is Bishr ibn Muhammad and Ma'mar, which we don't have to get into right now. So you're studying this hadith from Sahih Bukhari. Your first job is what we've done with the munasabah, the hadith, the bab, the kitab. We've done that. Now it's the study of the what? Rijal al-Isnad. So who is this man Abdan? We know his name. Abdullah ibn Uthman al-Marwazi. Is he thiqa? Is he da'if? Is he sayyid al-hifz, kadhab, mubtadi', majhul, etc. Who's Abdullah? Trustworthy, strong. Did Abdan hear from Abdullah? Did they meet? Etc. Everyone understand this or not? Everyone understand this? Then Yunus. What's his level of integrity? Who did he study with? Who did he teach? Yunus got the narration from, so on and so on and so forth. Until all of the conditions of Hadith Sahih are fulfilled. The conditions of the Hadith Sahih are fulfilled with regards to the Isnad. He heard from him, he met him, he taught him, he studied under him. They were all Muslim, they were sane, they were of age, they were righteous, they were pious, and most importantly they had what? Strong memory, and if not, they what? They took good notes. Everybody clear how much effort goes into one what? Hadith. This is one hadith now. Alright, inside Bukhari. So this is the study of this. So any other place you read Sahih Bukhari, you hear the word Abdan, you know who what? Who it is. And if you hear Akhbarana Abdullah in this tabaqa of the Isnad, he's the second person from Bukhari. In most cases it's Ibn al-Mubarak. It's not the same as Abdullah Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Inside Bukhari, when it says that Abdullah said, and the Messenger of Allah says, that's who? La, abadan. It's Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud. It's not Ibn Umar. It's not Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. It's not Abdullah ibn Zubayr. It's going to be who? Ibn Mas'ud. That's a science in itself, is determine who is Muhmal. Who's just mentioned by his first name. How many Abdullahs are there? 9 out of 10 times, Abdullah is quoting the Prophet in Bukhari is going to be Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, not Ibn Abbas. Clear this or not? Tayyib. So that's the chain of narration in Sahih Bukhari. Now let's break down the metan. Ibn Abbas said, Kana Rasulullah sallallahu ajwad an-nas. The Messenger of Allah alayhi was the most generous of men. What do we benefit from this? Quickly, we'll run out of time. What do we learn from this? Quickly, guys. First and foremost is a virtue of the Prophet ﷺ. Is a virtue of what? It's a sifa khuluqiyya. Sifa ish? Khuluqiyya. So this hadith could also be in manaqib. Virtues. The book of what? Virtues. This hadith could be collected by Imam Tirmidhi in his book what? Shama'il. Look at that. Everyone clear on this? It could be in the kitab of Sirah or Maghazi. The Prophet was the most generous of men. So first and foremost is a virtue of the Messenger of Allah. Number 2, second benefit is what? Quickly.
When it says Ajwad al-Nas, it was for his lifetime or all the creation?
Kana Ajwad al-Nas, the most generous of men. Period.
Okay.
Hakada. Tayyib. No one can give what the Messenger of Allah gave. If a man donated $1 billion, it wouldn't come anywhere near to what the Messenger of Allah what? Gave. And that's why he says you can't be a believer until you love me more than your parents. You never met the Prophet. Your parents raised you. They fed you. They took care of you. Your mother did all those things. You have to love a stranger more than your own mother. And that's because your mother can't give 1 ounce of what the Prophet gave. And that was an-najat min an-nar. Salvation from hell. You understand this? Salvation from hell. Iman, guidance. Came via who? The Rasul. Not your what? Not your mother. Everyone clear this or not? Tayyib. So the first is the virtue of the Prophet. Number 2 is what? Al-hathu is the encouragement to give sadaqah. Ibn Abbas told us about this for us to love the Prophet more, respect him more, and then also to what? Imitate the Prophet. To take his what? Example. When we read the hadith that the Prophet was the most courageous of men, it is not just for information, but it's also what? For us to what? Take his example and try our best to have courage. Everyone understand this? Right, next point from the hadith. It says here, وَكَانَ أَجْوَدُ مَا يَكُونُ فِي رَمَضَانِ حِينَ يَلْقَاهُ جِبْرِيلٌ. And he was even more generous in the month of Ramadan when Jibreel would meet him. What do we benefit from this? The virtue of Ramadan. Number 2. La, lissa. مذاكرة تجي.
Increase your reward in Ramadan. Increase your
Is to enhance your ibadah in what? Ramadan. You're already doing good. You're righteous. Now it's time to be what? Even more righteous, even more pious, even more generous. And if you're not doing so well, then at least try to do good. Are we understand this? Number 2 is the affirmation of Jibreel alayhi salam, that he's from the angels and the Quran came down via him. It's the affirmation of Jibreel. And Jibreel was tangible. Jibreel wasn't just some spirit, some metaphysical type of being, but he was what? Physically tangible. And he actually what? Came to the Prophet. And that the angels, number 3, can be what? Encountered and seen when Allah will so. Everyone understand this or not? طيب. Next sentence. It says, وَكَانَ يَلْقَاهُ فِي كُلِّ لَيْلَةٍ مِّن رَمَضَانَ فَيُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. What do we benefit from this hadith? Quickly. Quick, real quick.
revising the Quran.
Revising the Quran. فِيهِ مُذَاكَرَةُ الْعِلْمِ. As you said. Revising what? Knowledge. Number 2 is being consistent in seeking knowledge. Kulla, laylatin, every night. Number 3, third benefit from the hadith is that you should not stop studying just because it's Ramadan. As we said earlier at the Masjid. Just because Ramadan comes doesn't mean that you what? Stop studying ilm. You understand this? Next point. فَيُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. For Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we benefit from this, the importance of revising the Quran. If the Messenger of Allah needed the revision. فَرَ Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam أَجْوَدُ بِالْخَيْرِ مِنَ الرِّيحِ الْمُرْسَلَةِ. What do we benefit from that last point? Quickly.
That you do a lot of يعني الصبر.
أثبتنا هذا. What do we get from this part? 2 things. Number 1 is affirming and emphasizing. He emphasized it. The Messenger of Allah كان أجود الناس وكان أجود كذا 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 فالله رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود بالخير من الريح المرسلة. هذا تأكيد. It's emphasizing it. Last but not least, فيه جواز ضرب الأمثال is the permissibility of making examples and similitudes. It's permissible to make a what? An example for the people to get the message. Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu ala nabi. Briefly, before we stop, mopping up, inshallah, we'll read from, the book that we said we're going to read from, Fath al-Bari. Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, after he discusses several different issues with this hadith. Several different issues with this hadith. We'll select some of what he said and some of his commentary. It says here, وَمَعْنَا أَجْوَدَ النَّاسِ أكثر الناس جودا والجود الكرم وهو من الصفات المحمودة وقد أخرج الترمذي من حديث سعد رفعه إن الله يحب أو إن الله جواد يحب الجود الحديث وله في حديث أنس رفعه أنا أجود ولد آدم وأجوده من بعدي رجل علم علما فنشر علمه ورجل جاهد بنفسه في سبيل الله وفي سنده مقال وسيأتي في الصحيح من وجه آخر عن أنس كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أشجع الناس وأجود الناس الحديث. He says first and foremost, after he speaks on the Rijal al-Isnad that we've already done that, he says وَمَعْنَا أَجْوَدَ النَّاسِ, and what's meant by أَجْوَدَ النَّاسِ, he says أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ جُودًا, the most generous man, he who had the most jud, the most generosity, period. Not just of his time, or what? Period. And even if a person came and argued and says this person is more generous, so on and so forth, he can never ever give what the Prophet ﷺ what? Gave. Moving forward. He says here, وَهُوَ مِنَ الصِّفَاتِ الْمَحْمُودَةِ, and generosity is from the good things to have. Characteristics of good, of virtue. Meaning, if there was a man who was claimed to be complete and perfect, he would have to have in his checklist what? Generosity. If he was stingy, if he was miserly, if he was a bit tight-fisted, as we say, short hands with deep pockets in the United States, there's no way that he can be from the complete men. There's a list of things that we have to have checked off on his list. He has to be courageous, he has to be truthful, he has to be learned, he has to be kada, and he also has to be what? Generous. With his wealth, with his time, with his money, with his ilm, etc. Also with his what? His clout, his status. Someone needs to get married, someone's looking for a job, someone needs to get accepted in university. You put in a good word for them. You intercede for them. Please help him out. He's a good friend of mine. It's my neighbor's son. This is my student. Kada. You use your name to help people out. That's also from the types of ihsan and jud, being generous. Moving forward, Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then quotes some supporting hadiths for that one point, as I just said. So in Qur'an al-Hadith, hypothetically speaking, you have to memorize this one hadith. You have to memorize 3 subsidiary hadiths. 3 subsidiary supporting hadiths. So the curriculum is not just going to be 250 hadiths, but it's going to be what? وهكذا 700, 600, depending on the issue. He says that At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah has collected the narration of Sa'ad radiallahu anhu that Allah is Jawad. Inna Allah Jawadun. Allah is ever munificent, the most generous, the most kind, the most giving, ever bountiful. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yuhibbul Jud. And Allah loves that from His servants. That's a tremendous hadith. It affirms something that belongs to Allah, and it also teaches us that Allah loves that thing from His servants. And we know there are many attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are His attributes, that the servant should take that example. Not all of Allah's attributes, Al-Kabir, Al-Muta'al, Al-Jabbar, Al-Mutakabbir, no. But other attributes of Allah that the servant should take the example thereof. Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything, and He loves ilm. And that is an encouragement to seek knowledge and not be ignorant. Allah is strong, most powerful, and He loves people of strength and power. Allah is forgiving, pardoning, and He loves His servants to forgive and to pardon as well, and overlook the mistakes of others. And Allah is generous, and He loves generosity. And this also means Allah is not stingy. As the, I don't know if I can say that here in this masjid. Last time I said the word, Yahud in the masjid, Allah musta'an, the khutbah was taken down. I'm being serious. I don't know if I can say that here, Abu Isa? Allah said about the people in the Quran that they said that Allah's hand is what? Maghlula, waliyadu billah. Tied up and clenched. And Allah says, بَلْ يَدَاهُ مَبْسُوطَتَانِ. Nay, you have lied. Allah says, Bel, no, that's not true. Allah's hands are outstretched. Allah is giving all of the time to everyone. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is kind, He's generous, He's giving, He's bountiful, and He also loves that from His servants. And that proves that Allah does not have the attribute of characteristic of the opposite of generosity, nor does He like the opposite from His servants. Allah loves His generous slaves, and He does not like and love what? His stingy slaves. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, and there's another narration collected by Tirmidhi of Anas radiallahu anhu, in which the Messenger of Allah alayhi is quoted to have said, Ana ajwadu walidi Adam. I am the most generous sons of Adam. There's no human being that can be more what? Generous than I. وَأَجْوَدُهُمْ بَعْدِي رَجُلٌ عَلِمَ عِلْمًا فَنَشَرَ عِلْمَهُ. And he says, and the most generous humans after me are those people who learn knowledge and spread that knowledge. Allahu Akbar. There's a man who alima ilman, who learns some information and he does what? He spreads it, he disseminates it, he gives it out to the people. Also, وَرَجُلٌ جَادَ لَيْسَ جَاهَدَ هذا سبق لسان وَرَجُلٌ جَادَ بِنَفْسِهِ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَإِنْ كَانَ المعنى واحد لكن هذا كان سبق لسان. And a man جاد, who is generous with his nafs in the cause of Allah, meaning his blood was cheap and invaluable in the cause of Allah. Listen to this hadith. My life, my safety, me returning home in the cause of Allah is of total insignificance. Allahu Akbar. My life is insignificant in the cause of Allah subhanahu. Who from among us can say this? This is our stance. That your blood means nothing in light of Islam and the preservation and the propagation of Islam. طيب. And then Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar says, وَفِي سَنَدِهِ مَقَالٌ. And this hadith, its chain of narration isn't the strongest. It isn't the what? The strongest. But we benefit so far the permissibility of mentioning hadiths which aren't necessarily the strongest. And it's not necessarily the correct view in the way of the ulama, all of them, let alone the earlier ulama, the mutaqaddimin, and which a hadith which is da'if has no value whatsoever. That's not the way of the earlier ulama of Islam. And which a weak hadith has no value and is to be excluded and cut out from a book and not mentioned. And tabihu. Moving forward, Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then goes on to express some linguistics of the hadith and the i'rab of the hadith. As we said, you learn that in Kulit al-Hadith about the gharib, the vocabulary of the hadith. You learn nahu via the sunnah. You learn the i'rab via the hadith. Everyone understand this? And not this poem or fulan and this sha'ir and this book and this poem, but directly, organically from the what? From the hadith. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, after he explains all of these different linguistics, it says, فَيُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ قِيلَ الحكمة فيه أن مدارسة القرآن تجدد له العهد بمزيد غنى النفس والغنى سبب الجود والجود في الشرع إعطاء ما ينبغي لمن ينبغي وهو عام من الصدقة وأيضا في رمضان موسم الخيرات لأن نعم الله على عباده فيه زائدة على غيره فكان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يثير متابعة سنة الله في عباده فبمجموع ما ذكر من الوقت والمنزول به والنازل والمذاكرة حصل المزيد في الجود والعلم عند الله تعالى. انظر هذا الكلام يكتب بمهل العينين يا شيخ أليس كذلك؟ They said this speech is more valuable, it's so valuable that you could write it with the water from your eyes. If you had to make ink and the only water that you had were your tears, it will be what? It will be worth it. What did he say? It wouldn't be a what? A wasted life. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu was studying the Quran with Jibreel, what is the wisdom, nur, between this and him being ajwad, even more generous? He says, qila. Some scholars say, and it's another benefit from this book, is that the ulama benefit from each other. The scholars of hadith benefited from each other. And there was no ego, I'm making the sharh, I'm only going to explain what I feel, what I think. No, they benefited from each other. And they took from each other. Not how we live in cliquish culture today, in which there's no good except in our center, and our masjid. And everyone else is upon misguidance and is going to the fire of hell outside of these walls. And there's no one to learn from and to benefit from unless we mandate it to you. You can sit with them and you can study with them. It was never the attitude of the ulama of Islam. He says, qila, some people say. And he didn't mention what? Who said it? Qila, he says, they say, the wisdom behind this is that, he says, reviewing the Quran, studying the Quran, تجدد له العهد بغنى النفس. It rejuvenates, it resurrects, it freshens the richness of the soul. غنى النفس. The true richness is not the richness of material possessions, but it's how much richness you possess in your soul. That you are, bid'Allah ta'ala, doing away with begging and asking. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is the Razak. He is the one who gives the sustenance. Ghina nafs. If you have expensive material things, alhamdulillah. And if you don't have those expensive material things, you say what? Say alhamdulillah, I can survive, I can do fine. So when he reviewed the Quran, it did what? It did what? He says tujaddid. It renewed this richness of the nafs. And ghina, richness, is the reason behind what? Generosity. I'm generous because I'm rich. Whether I'm tangibly rich or whether I'm spiritually what? Rich. Listen carefully. I have a lot of wealth, so I give from it. Giving doesn't hurt my wealth. I have a little wealth, and I also give, or with my knowledge, my time, my body, or whatever other thing that you can give, because you know that it only came to you from what? Allah Azza wa Jalla. But he who is stingy, he who is a miser, whether he has a lot or a little, doesn't give that much because he's stingy inside as well. He doesn't have the ghina nafs. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says in Jude, the Islamic understanding of generosity is, because there's a linguistical understanding of it, cultural understanding of it. In my culture, generous is to slaughter a cow for your guests. In my culture, generous is to give the guests the head of the fish. In my culture, generous is to do this and to do that. In my culture, where I come from, you kiss your guest on his nose and you bow down and kiss his feet. That's generous in my culture. That's not necessarily generosity in the what? In the Sharia. He says, إِعْطَاءُ مَا يَنْبَغِي لِمَنْ يَنْبَغِي. It's to give what's necessary to those whom necessary to give. It's to give what you should to those whom you should. Give what you're supposed to those whom you're supposed to. Whether that's a guest, whether that is a scholar who visits you, your wife, your children, your husband, your neighbor. Ma yambaghi, giving what's necessary to those who deserve that. He says that's Jude in the Sharia. And he says, and this is more general than sadaqah. Sadaqah is one thing, generosity is what? Is a broader concept. Sadaqah is one. Generosity is what? Is larger. You can give Jude, you can be generous more than just giving something which is of sadaqah. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala says, also another reason why he was more generous in Ramadan is because Ramadan, mawsimul khayrat. It was the season of good, the season of hasanat, the season of good deeds. Even the non-Muslims today, what do they say during Christmas? They say what? La. They say what? They say 'tis the season. They say what? You never heard that before? Your brothers don't live in America or the UK? He said what? 'Tis the season. It's the time to give charity. It's the time to be happy. It's the time to visit your family. It's a mosim. They understand that. It is a season of doing what? Doing even more. Everyone understand this? So that's what they say. What about what? Well, we should what? Believe and say. 'Tis the season. Ramadan is what? Is the season of giving, of going above and beyond of your normal, natural level of what? Generosity. He says, so Ramadan was a time and a season of good. And that is because, why is Ramadan a season of doing more good? Allah's favors upon His servants are even more in the month of Ramadan. What Allah has given you, which is so much. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ. You can't count Allah's favors if you try to. You couldn't. You may lose your mind. Literally, you may go mad if you sat down and attempted to count all of the things that Allah has given you. Not only would you be incapable of doing it, but you may actually what? You may go mad trying to figure that out. Where do you start? Where do you begin? Writing down and listing all of Allah's blessings upon you. And in the month of Ramadan, those blessings are what? Even more. Za'ida. You get even more blessings. So the Prophet ﷺ, he wanted to follow Allah's Sunnah. And the Sunnah of Allah is to give more during. And that's why the Messenger of Allah gave more during Ramadan. Everyone understand this? The Sunnah of Allah was to be more generous in Ramadan. So the Messenger of Allah wanted to follow the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa azza wa jal concerning His servants. He says, فَبِمَجْمُوعِ مَا ذُكِرَ. He says, so therefore the Prophet was more generous because of the combined elements. Number one, al-waqt was the time, which was, what was the time? Ramadan, like we said earlier. Fasting, Ramadan, two different what? Things. Number two, he says, وَالْمَنْزُولُ بِهِ. He says, in the thing that was brought to him, which was the Quran. وَالنَّازِلِ. And the one who descended and came, who was? Jibreel. Everyone understand this now? It made him more generous, first and foremost, because of the time. The time, al-waqt. Number two, وَالْمَنْزُولُ بِهِ. Because of the thing that was what? Sent down, which was the what? The Quran, the Kalam of Allah. And also the visitant, the guest, the teacher, who was? Jibreel. Are we understand this now? So now I have a virtuous guest. He's a student of knowledge coming to my house in Ramadan, bringing me books. Everyone understand this? He's a student of knowledge, and he's bringing me a set of what? Sahih Bukhari. So these are three reasons why I give him what? An extra piece of lamb. More rice. Everyone understand this? I give him what? I give him even more. I'm even more generous. Everyone understand this or not? Moving forward, Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, And the knowledge, the correct view and the understanding is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani, absolutely. Moving forward. He says here, والمرسلة أي المطلقة يعني أنه في الإسراء بالجود أسرع من الريح وعبر بالمرسلة إشارة إلى دوام هبوبها بالرحمة وإلى عموم النفع بجوده كما تعم الريح المرسلة جميع ما تهب أو تهب عليه. ووقع عند أحمد في آخر هذا الحديث لا يسأل شيئا إلا أعطاه. وثبتت هذه الزيادة في الصحيح من حديث جابر سئل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم شيئا فقال لا. He then says the reason why Ibn Abbas said that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم was better, was more general than the rih mursala, the scent wind, the cool scent breeze, for the following reasons. Number one is speed. Faster than what? Speed, as they say. Let your rapidity be that of the wind. That's what the wise man said in the manual. He said, let your rapidity be like that of the wind. Wind comes in and goes. Everyone understand this or not? Let alone a tornado, a hurricane. It does what? It's so violent, it's so fast, the velocity is so high, which it uproots a house, a building. Crushes steel and wood in its way because the wind is so what? So fast. Everyone understand this? It's seamless. The wind what? It blows. So the process, not only was he generous by being asked, but he himself what? Ran towards the generosity. He rushed to give and to hand out. Listen to these words now. The process, he didn't wait for the people to come and knock on his door and ask him, but he what? He rushed. Or if he was asked something, he didn't have to think about it and ponder over it. A brother calls you, assalamu alaikum, I'm in a bad situation, can I borrow 500 pounds? Let me get back with you inshallah. Let me check, let me see what I have, I'll call you back. Most of us, right? How can I get the money to you? When can I meet you? Come to my house right now, no problem. Can I send it to you in America, say PayPal or Cash App? There's no delaying when my brother needs something and he asks me for something. I have a question, Sheikh. Inshallah, after the class, tomorrow, next week, this and that. I try my best to do what? Be quick. So that was the first reason behind Ibn Abbas mentioning that similitude, the linguistics. He said he was like the scent, the wind, the breeze that was sent. Number two, and he also says because the wind is constantly blowing, it's always moving. The generosity doesn't start, it doesn't stop. It's what? Continuous, in the whole entire month. And many people, they burn out in Ramadan. They start off giving food, giving iftar, giving suhoor, giving sadaqah. And as the days go by, you find them what? They start falling off. And you find other brothers the exact opposite. They become even more and more generous towards the end of Ramadan. He then says, and also the benefit is for all. Wind falls upon what? Everything that it encounters. Wind doesn't discriminate. It blows and that's it. Whatever's outside fills the wind. The kafir, the mu'min, the tree, the stone, the sidewalk, whatever's outside, it gets touched by the what? Get touched by the wind. That was the Prophet ﷺ's character. And he mentioned some more supporting hadiths, in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he was never asked something in Ramadan, except that he did what? He gave it. He never said no. He never said no in Ramadan. He was asked something, and he did that thing. He complied. Moving forward. He says, وقال النووي في الحديث فوائد منها الحث على الجود في كل وقت ومنها الزيادة في رمضان وإن الاجتماع بأهل الصلاح وفيه زيارة الصلحاء وأهل الخير وتكرار ذلك إذا كان المزور لا يكرهه واستحباب الإكثار من القراءة في رمضان وكونها أفضل من سائر الأذكار إذ لو كان الذكر أفضل أو مساويا لفعلاه. Moving forward. Nawawi, he says, Ibn Hajar is quoting from Nawawi. Once more, the ulama benefiting from each other. Those who came before and building upon that commentary. Nawawi, he said, there are many benefits in this hadith. Many benefits in this hadith. Number one is the encouragement to be generous all of the time. The encouragement to be generous all of the time. Number two is to be more generous during Ramadan. But he says, إِنَّ الْإِجْتِمَاعِ بِأَهْلِ الصَّلَاحِ is when you meet with the virtuous people. I.e., piety, righteousness, and generosity should be infectious. It should what? it should spread. And obviously stinginess is also going to be what? Infectious. It will be passed on. If you don't what? Mind who you sit with, right? Moving forward, Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, and also visiting the righteous people, visiting the good pious people, and doing it abundantly over and over again, as long as the host does not mind. If his door is open, he doesn't care, he's not bothered, it shouldn't just be a one-time visit. You should keep what? Visiting them over and over again. Next point is the recommendation of making an abundance of reciting and reading the Quran in the month of Ramadan. Next point is that this is the best supplication, the best dhikr. The best remembrance of Allah is the Quran. The best type of dhikr is the Quran. And that's because if there was something which was better to do, then Jibreel would have what? Instructed him to do that, but he didn't do that. Yudari, so he taught him the Quran. So the Quran is the best dhikr. If you had a choice between making this dhikr, this supplication, or reciting the Quran, you would pick what? The Quran. Khayran, inshallah. And there are many other fawaid quoted by Ibn Hajar, quoted by An-Nawawi, fawaid quoted by other ulama, and fawaid that we ourselves have come up with. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.